Guys, and welcome to the episode Spirituality and My MS Journey. So, let's get into spirituality because I feel that when people hear the word spirituality, it can be a mindful of different things. There's so many different aspects to what spirituality is, a lot of misconceptions, a lot of judgments. I feel especially in this generation as well. If I if I say to people, "Oh yeah, like I'm spiritual," straight away the thought process is astrology. She's one of these star sign girls. She bases her life off of what the star signs are, and don't get me wrong, I find astrology very interesting. And yes, I do believe I'm a full Aquarius. My necklace actually has an Aquarius logo. And I do have it tattooed behind my neck, the Aquarius sun. So I suppose I'm not really helping with the whole idea of what spirituality is. But it's not just that. And this is the frustrating thing that I find when I say to people that I'm spiritual. What they don't know and don't realise is how adapting this new spiritual mindset, I genuinely believe, has saved me from many situations. And it's entitled me and enabled me to sort of have this whole new perspective on the world and how things work, which I tell you, having a spiritual mindset alongside a chronic illness, I genuinely believe that is what has helped me through it all. And I'm really, really excited to get into my perception of spirituality, how I perceive it with myself. Um, Again, not helping the stereotype by having, I shouldn't have probably told you, I should have hid this necklace and I should never have told you about the tattoo because you can't actually see it. But I'm a real girl and that's what we're here to talk about is realness. So, spirituality. Spirituality? How did I come across being spiritual? I'll tell you one thing. I did not grow up being spiritual. I didn't even grow up being religious. There was zero. There was no belief in this household. It was just realness. It was what you see, what is what you get. The world is what the world is, what it shows you. And that's it. It's black and white. There's nothing else. Now, I've always been brought up to be very respectful of other cultures, other religions, and to be honest, I have found them fascinating because I've always kind of, maybe in a way, not jealous, but I've always wanted deep down something that I could have to believe in. But I knew that, I don't know, religions like Christianity, Catholic, I mean, half my family is Irish, so you would have expected me to go down one of those routes perhaps, but they didn't call to me. And I feel like even though I wasn't brought up with any means anyone spiritual in my family at all, I always had this sort of feeling within me where I would listen to my gut about things. So, I wasn't too far. So I kind of liked the idea of having something to believe in, but I knew that I would only believe in something if it genuinely called out to me. So for a long time, I didn't know what that was. I didn't know what was calling out to me. It was just literally a matter of fact of just when something takes your interest, delve into that. Delve into that completely. Because that is your body and your gut's way of saying to you, I think you need to explore this a little bit further. So I kind of just came about spirituality and I want to say sort of the law of attraction and manifesting things more or less through word of mouth. So when I was first diagnosed with MS, about a year or two after my diagnosis, I was working at a job where I'd been for a few years and I felt I was really happy and comfortable in this job. It was more like the people were like a family to me. And it wasn't until about a year into this job, when some new people started and I sort of clicked with them. Just, although we had nothing in common at all, I just clicked with these people and I started sort of spending more and more time with them. Now, they were the most beautiful souls I've ever come across, so authentically themselves. And they were, not mind me saying this either, absolute hippies, which I love. And the more I got to speak with them and find out more about them, they started telling me about some of these books that they were into. Now, I would just sort of listen amongst the conversation. Now, I didn't read. If I read, it was Bridget Jones when I was like 16, because I was obsessed with Bridget Jones. But yeah, I hadn't read a book since then. So I was sort of listening in, just taking interest to it, but not really knowing what they're talking about. And then I remember one day I just said, okay, what are these books that you're talking about here? Because I'm hearing it in like every conversation and I'm intrigued, to be honest, and I don't know what they are. So my friend explained to me that these books, all she said was they changed my life. So I'm thinking, well, that's a bit dramatic, isn't it? How could a book change your life? But she carried on, and I carried on listening, and she said it will change the way that you see the world. It will genuinely change how you think about everything. So I was like, okay. I mean, deep down, prior to finding this new spiritual balance in my life, I was always quite a positive person anyway. But I was even more so, I was intrigued. What do you mean it could change how I think? And then all of a sudden, bang, lockdown. COVID came. We've gone into lockdown. So what a blessing in disguise, really, because that gave me the time to, I thought, you know what? I'm not doing anything else with my time. I'm going to go and order one of those books on Amazon. The books that I remember they were talking about so highly. So I did. And I read this book. It's called The Power of Now. So I was actually going to bring all my books here, but they're all over the house, and in all honesty, I couldn't be bothered. So, but I'm going to work out when I'm editing this if I can bring like little images up. Like I told you guys, I haven't edited before. This is the first time of all these podcasts, so we'll try and work something out. But anyway, the book was called The Power of Now. So I ordered that, I read it, and whilst I was reading it, I was like, this is really interesting. Again, I didn't really know what I was reading, but I had this sort of pull, the same pull that I get when I feel that something's good for me or it's right for me. It's like this gut feeling. And I was so invested in this book. Now, during this time, obviously, it was COVID, a lot of uncertainty in the world. Also, along with that, I was going through quite a toxic relationship, and I felt very, very lost. I was extremely lost. I had no clue what was going on. I mean, half the world didn't know what was going on, but just with every aspect, I just felt in a really tough place. And I remember the book being sort of like a comfort. Like, I would sit down in my room in the evening, lights on, and it was like my escape. And it wasn't a storybook. It was like I felt like I was reading this book from really, really wise people, and I almost felt like I was learning a secret about the world. And this thing that my friends were all talking about, how it changed their lives, and I thought, I'm ready for something to change my life. So I'm reading the book, and that's not all of it. I'm just saying this is where it kind of started. And then as I was reading it and I started taking in new things about the world and how it works, if I'm explaining to you, if whoever's listening doesn't particularly have a spiritual mind, or they're not really too sure, I mean, if you're listening to this episode, then I'm sure it sort of interests you. And you were me 5-6 years ago, where I didn't really know much, but it sort of interested me, and I wanted to know more and delve more into that. So the book is very much about what you put out to the world is what you receive, and it's about being present. So stop worrying about the future, stop worrying about the past, because guess what? The past is done. It's happened. You cannot change it. The future, you have no clue what's going to happen in the future. But guess what? If you're worrying so much about the future in the present moment, You're already creating your future. You're creating it with anxiety. You're not helping yourself because you're so fixated on something that's going to happen, might not happen, would never happen, who knows? And that's the whole point. That's the whole point of the future, is we literally don't have a clue. So anyway, the point of the book was be present. Be extremely present. Picture every single moment, every single minute. Just take a moment. And you would have thought during COVID we'd slow down, but as humans, I feel like we're so fast paced all the time. So it's sort of just taking a moment to appreciate where you are right now, what's happening around you, and don't even think about what's going to happen in an hour. Just think about what's happening in this very moment. And I guarantee you, if you can create happiness, contentness in the very moment of now, that will manifest itself to your future. So guess what? You don't have to worry about the future because you're creating it by being present. So that is one of the main takes that I took from this book. And the more that I started to actually live by the book and take all of its advice and knowledge on board, then the more I found that I was putting things into me. I almost felt like I was learning who I was. So I took up painting. I started painting, which became a huge hobby, something I don't find enough time to do. And I literally had a voice note from my friend Alicia earlier. Actually, let me see if I can get it in here. 1 second.
Like they have just fallen in place this year with the podcast and everything you're doing. I also thought this morning that you need to make some more time for art, please, next year. Please, please, please. That is something that I'm just like drilling into you because you are so talented that you need to be using that as an outlet, and people need to be seeing that. Even if you don't do it for people to see, just do it for yourself because, yeah, make time for that, please.
So that was just a little funny moment where we were literally talking about art today, and it honestly has become so prominent in my life ever since I picked up that book and I started reading it, and I found a passion that just aligns with me, and it makes me feel, I can't explain the feeling that I get when I start painting and I block out everything else and I'm sat there with my music on. It's like nothing else matters. I don't think about anything. And as someone who overthinks massively and has 1,010,000,000,000 things going on in my life, it is the one moment where just nothing matters. And I just feel so at peace, genuinely. So I found that. I found spirituality. I found painting all during COVID. So I suppose it had some good sides. But as I started my spirituality journey, I realised that there is so much more to discover. Now there still is. I cannot even condense this into one podcast episode. And you're probably still sitting here thinking, well, what? Like, what else is there? Guys, there is a whole universe out there. There is a whole beautiful, magical experience. I know I sound crazy and I'm actually stone cold sober, trust me, but there really is such a beautiful way of living and being out there. And guess what? That even means if you've got a chronic illness. So that's why I always say to people when we talk about my MS, I say, in a way, and I think I said this in one of my other episodes before, and I know it sounds crazy, but I don't regret that I have it. I don't mind, in a sense, because of the new mindset that it's given me. And I also genuinely believe that by having this mindset alongside having a chronic illness and having MS, I can now regulate my own mind. I've found practices. So whether that is reading my spiritual books, I've learned, delved into meditation, Reiki, so many different things that's all energy because we are energy. And by doing this, I feel like I've relaxed my nervous system. Don't get me wrong, I'm still 100 miles per hour. My brain is still constantly thinking about things, but I've found methods to regulate that. And ever since, this is crazy. Now I'm thinking about it and I'm putting it all into sort of a time frame. So the moment I found spirituality is the same moment that I discovered my absolute love of a hobby, okay? In that same year is when I started Sabri, the medication I'm on now. And this is the first medication in nearly 10 years that I've had MS. After about 5 types of different medications I've tried, this is the first one that's ever worked for me. I've gone years without a relapse, years without a lesion in my brain, like new lesions. Don't get me wrong, they can't leave, so there's still a few hanging around up there, but without any new ones, years. And it's all since. I'm not saying it's down to it, but it is all since I've found a new way of just thinking, being, and living. And I genuinely believe that is what helps to have a better way of life. I also genuinely believe that everything is in the mind. So when you're stressed out and you're worrying about things all the time, it's in the mind, right? So even if this is what I was saying about worrying about the future, you're worrying about something that hasn't happened. You don't know if it ever will happen, right? But because you're worrying about it, you're actually telling your body that it's happening. So your brain can't differentiate the difference between something that is real compared to made up in your mind. It's crazy. So you will find that your body has those same fight or flight responses as if you're actually in that scenario, even when it's not happening and it may never happen. So you're putting your body through, the sweats, the anxiousness, the shaking, needing to go to the toilet, because of your thought process, because you're thinking of something that's going to happen. You've now actually created a fake scenario to yourself in your brain. It's crazy. We are our own worst enemies. And ever since I've learned this new way of just thinking, being, and living, I can pick up, don't get me wrong, we're human. So of course I'm still going to have moments where I do that. I'm not telling you that, oh, I don't worry about anything and, I'm fine. That is not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that I found ways to manage it. So if I find myself in one of those situations, the old me, would have been dwelling on it, worrying about it, stressing, making myself ill. Now when I do that, do you think that's any good for the MS? No, of course not. That can bring on stress, brings on relapses. It brings on flare-ups. Because when you're stressed, your body heat rises as well. And we all know that that's what can bring on a flare-up. But we actually do know, it's studied, it's been found that stress brings on relapses. So when I find a moment where I'm like, okay, I'm feeling the stress. The stress is here. Don't get me wrong, I still have my little blowouts, my little stressful moments. Who doesn't? But if I have those moments and I've maybe reacted in a way I didn't like, I actually just sit with myself. Now, when you have a new spiritual outlook in life, you learn that you are your biggest best friend. You are the person that will be there for you no matter what. So what you need to do, you need to make friends, best soulmate friends with yourself, and check in on yourself. If it just means, it sounds a bit crazy as well. I am a little bit crazy, guys. I think you've picked up on this already, but not too crazy that I'm, Anyway, I will actually sit in front of the mirror and I'll be like, what's going on, Danielle? What's happening? Let's talk about this. I won't physically talk, but I'll sit in my mind and I'll be thinking, maybe I reacted that way because of this. And it's all just a case of just narrowing things down. And some people don't want to know about themselves. They don't have time. They don't care to be asking themselves, why did I do this? Why did I do that? And that's fine. Ignorance is bliss, as they say. But it's not going to help you, because if you want to live your life to the best extent that you can, yeah, we're not perfect, but you need to reach these things. And when you do, you have to learn about yourself. There is a whole universe inside of you, but not enough people take the time to get to know that. So I'm sort of going off on a path here, but I think you understand what I'm saying. It's just you're finding that time to sit with yourself, to learn from yourself, because if you don't do that, you will do repeated patterns over and over and over again. So, for example, let's circle back to the stress bit. Now, using my newfound, it's not really new, I've been on this journey, my spiritual journey, like 5 years ago. But how I would deal with things now is if I can feel myself getting stressed, I will just take a moment, and if I can't do it in that moment right there, if it's happening somewhere, for example, say work, just deep breaths, and I might go to the toilet. Just take time for yourself. But let's use an example where I'm at home and I'm somewhere safe and I'm by myself. Meditation, guys. I can't explain. Whatever you're stressing about, if you took 10 minutes to meditate, okay, the problem will go. The problem is gone. It's gone. It never existed. It's out. It's out the door. It's gone. I'm joking. Not everything can leave straight away. However, what I'm trying to say is those fight or flight feelings that you're having, which is causing your body stress, they are gone. Okay? So it's what we need to realise. The issue is always at the core. But the way that we can deal with things, whether that is in a physical sense, an emotional sense, I truly believe, I heard this saying once before, that a lot of issues that we face are 1% physical and 99% mental. So if we can just help that physical symptom, that leaves all of that space, because even though it's the 1%, it makes itself the loudest, and we generally believe it. So if we're having an issue and it's coming out in a physical sense, we're going to think, oh my God, it's going to get worse. Because I know when I've been stressed and, you know, I physically don't feel well, I start thinking, I'm going to bring on a relapse, I'm going to do this is going to happen. We need to breathe, because you cannot think straight. When you're in that fight or flight mode, you can't think straight. You need to regulate your body and you need to get it back down to how it needs to be. So again, meditation, it is great. And do you know what you can do? You can go on YouTube. This is what I do. I just go on YouTube and whatever it is I'm wanting to achieve, meditate. And you can just write in the search bar, meditation for sleep, meditation for anger, meditate, you know, it's endless, you get the point. But when I tell you meditation, you can turn it into a visual thing as well. So that's for the stress part. But if we're talking, we've got another sense here of meditation, okay? I actually did a meditation practice not that long ago where I was going somewhere and I didn't really feel like I was going to like the energy of where I was going. So I just thought, I've been here before, and I know from past experiences that I've not felt great. But I've got to go here. I've got to go to this place. I'm not going to say what it is. But what I did in the morning, I woke up, and as I always do, I sit on the edge of my bed, I look out the window. Again, I'm just saying I'm so grateful. I say thank you for another day. You know, as someone who has lost their eyesight and it's returned, I'm always thankful. I'm always grateful. But I like to reiterate that so that I don't forget that, because it's so easy as humans for us to fall out of that pattern and become ungrateful. So, you know, as a reminder of how grateful I am, I will say thank you and stand up, take a deep breath. But then what I did, I went onto YouTube and I put on meditation practice for protection. Now you're thinking, was someone going to come and attack me? No. Energy protection, huge thing. If you just get this feeling, again, listen to your gut. If you get this feeling that you're going to be in a situation where your energy is going to be brought down, try to do a meditation practice on energy protection. So as I'm listening to this, it was actually a visual meditation practice at the same time. So it had me envisioning that I was a tree trunk, okay? Stay with me. I was a tree trunk, and so you can laugh at it as well, but trust me, when you're actually doing the practice, it all makes sense. So I'm a tree trunk, and I'm envisioning being, solid. I'm in the ground. My roots are so sturdy in that ground. Now the roots, they go all the way beneath the surface and they touch out across the world and they come back around and they hug each other. I am those roots. I'm going around all of the problems that exist, coming back around to hug myself. So really, what the protection meditation was an act of self-love. You need to be that person in all scenarios, all situations, to be there to just give yourself a hug and remind yourself, you're okay, you're okay. You have all the energy that you need is already within you, and you just have to remind yourself of that. So by doing things like these meditation practices, they're a great way to remind yourself that you have that energy, you have all of that there. And another thing as well, manifesting and the law of attraction. Oh God, I could speak forever about this. I might have to do a part 2. I'm actually going to leave that for a part 2, guys, because I could talk forever. But I will leave you with one thing. We've got another book recommendation here. Roxy Nafusi, Manifest. She's a great author. She is great, and I'll tell you why. Because a lot of books are too sciencey. They're too spiritual, but in a sense that I don't understand. I'm sorry, but I don't understand what you're talking about. Now, this is why I need someone who can say things in a way that I do understand, and that is Roxy. She is so relatable in her books and how she found spiritualism as well, and her mind and how that changed. It was just so relatable. So I would 100% recommend her book. She's got 2 books now. I need to get the next one. I think I've asked for that as a Christmas present. I can't remember. But yeah, Roxy Nafusi is amazing. And in a nutshell, I will do another episode, but in a nutshell, law of attraction and manifesting, it's just creating a new mindset. Now, if you practice anything for 30 days, you can create a habit. So, 5 years now of this is pretty solid in my brain. And I feel like everyone says to me all the time, you're so happy. Why are you so happy all the time? Well, because I believe that good things will come to me if I give the energy back out. And also, putting out that good energy, it just makes me feel good. I feel happy. If I'm acting happy, at first, it was very much like a force. Like, I have to always look on the positive side of things and whatnot. But I will tell you one thing, once it got to the stage where it actually just became normal, life got so much better. And I actually had a reason to be happy. Like I said, I was having no relapses. I've done so many amazing things. I can't explain, life just got so much better when I started being this way. And it's so hard to condense, exactly what spirituality is per person, because everyone experiences it so differently. But my biggest takeaways is just my mindset. So it's not all about astrology, it's not all about star signs, okay? It's about the mindset, and also changing the way that you think and having this belief system that I do deserve good things. And by doing that, I just believe that life is good, and why shouldn't it be? Why shouldn't it be? And I feel like not many people think this way, and I genuinely believe that I was gifted with having this frame of mind, these thoughts, whilst dealing with something like a chronic illness, because I genuinely believe that I would not be who I am if, 1, I didn't have MS, and 2, I didn't have this way of thinking. I don't believe it. To me, it's like, well, there's nothing out there that I couldn't do. Why am I any different to anyone else? I'm not. And yeah, so having that mindset. Yes, I have got crystals. I do. They're actually I can't reach them. They're over there. And yes, I do charge them. Yes, I like star signs. Yes, I do like the odd tarot reading. These things just bring me joy, and it's another thing. It just makes me happy. So I feel like everybody should maybe just take a little interest in things that maybe they're not aware of or haven't been spoken about. It does not mean that you have to start following it, but it's something that could be interesting and could bring value to your life, especially if you've got MS. Genuinely, I do believe that. So yeah, I'm going to do another episode on manifesting and the mindset and law of attraction. But I will also link some of the books that I've read, which I think will just be the start of your journey, essentially. But for now, I hope you guys have a lovely day. And also, I'm very sorry that this podcast has been a couple of weeks delayed. I've been a busy gal. I've been a very busy gal. But I couldn't wait to come on here and talk to you about this episode. So yeah, any questions? I'm always here. Feel free to message me, comment. I don't know, anything that you want. I'm always a listening ear. So yeah, have a lovely day. Bye, guys.